between California, South Carolina, Texas, and North Dakota, I promise you there's somebody that's making a good living in that small town. And they're probably the ones that are propping up the town. And while you may not feel like you've gotten anything handed to you, you don't need it. Mm-hmm. It's in those tough years that you're going to figure out how to get across and find profitability. If we're going to sit here and watch that seasonal pattern, why do we not pay attention to this? I mean, we're all smarter than that.
Yeah.
And so if we can break that seasonal pattern and find where those holes in the market are, that they really have the demand for the cattle, we need to take advantage of that. I think too, having confidence. Like walk in the room and yeah, there's a guy there that he may be wealthier than anybody in the U.S., but realizing that you're on the same level. And most of these folks, when we go into these investor meetings and, when I'm dealing with everybody with net worths of $100 million or more, yeah, they look at life differently than we do. Are they still human? Absolutely.
Welcome back to the Wealthy Cowboy Show. Got something I think y'all really like. We're going to talk about today the ag finance side of things and the business side of production agriculture, farming, ranching, all that stuff. And get to know, of course, we always start out getting to know the man behind it all, Jonathon Haralson with Empire Ag. So how's it going?
Good, Crockett. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yes, sir. So tell us about yourself, where you came from, how you got into all this.
Yeah, I grew up in North Texas, Nocona actually, and my family, 6 generations, been on the same ground, and we had I grew up diversified with we had a grow yard, had pecans, wheat, yearlings, cow-calf operation. We just did a little bit of everything. Mm-hmm. And I watched over time in the 80s whenever the banks kind of came in and our bank got bought out. I was a kid, so I didn't realize that our dream of coming back to the family farm was kind of eroding away at that point. Fast forward, we still maintained and kept a good chunk of the original family ground. And
what was it that got y'all in the 80s? Because I know it was like a drought plus the banking changed right there, and the interest rates were super high.
Yeah, so our bank actually got bought out. The individual that took over ownership did not like agricultural exposure. And I think as we go further into the show, you're going to see that a lot of the similarities that I experienced as a kid, I think we're seeing those today. And it's been kind of interesting to watch that. And I think sometimes God puts you in situations to open up doors later. And I look at that and I really think that's what happened there. Mm-hmm. But we fast forward, we kept farming what little ground we were able to keep. But the bank that we had worked with, they kind of pulled out ag exposure, didn't want anybody to keep doing what they were doing. I saw a lot of our neighbors that we helped out sold their equipment, sold down land. Everybody kind of went into a holding pattern, and a lot of them went into town and got jobs. And so we saw after moving through that phase,
and then right after that, because my dad talks about that, so I kind of know about that 80s phase there. But same deal. The banks got him, called his note, and didn't work out. And then he said some of his friends, I don't know if they had better bankers or more capital or whatever, but the ones that made it through, then they were like in a really the market turned and it started raining, and then it was like everything was good after that. But it took a lot of people out, and then it didn't give them the chance to see the upside on that.
Well, and like you look back at the 80s, land, no different than today. We had a run up where land values had kind of gotten to a good spot. A lot of people were building balance sheets that were great. 86, 87, that proved everybody wrong, and if you bought in 86 or 87, you were one of the stoutest guys there because you bought land at 50% of the value. But for anybody that bought in 84 or 85, you were kind of sitting there going, I hope it goes back up. And so there was a lot of pressure. Guys were either in a growth pattern or they were in hold and just hoping they could hang on. I think people that were, one, not willing to take failure. I mean, they would look out elsewhere. Maybe they had a contact with somebody that had some wealth where they could, take a private loan or partner with someone. There were just some opportunities that guys had to play around the edges and not just stick with the traditional banking model in order to survive. I mean, that's really what happened. And once the 90s got there, they were on a path that, they could actually make some money. Up until the cow that stole Christmas, that kind of set a few folks back. But it definitely there was a lot of time there where growth could happen. But if your guy was outside of the box thinking, he could really, really make some moves and grow his operation. Land, it was reasonable, but it was still growing and appreciating in value fast enough that it helped the balance sheet and it kept the bankers at bay. And I think it really, and I think that's why you notice the guys that are currently in their 60s and 70s, they're a little skittish and have been a little skittish for the last 20 years because of the scars that they experienced during that time.
Mm-hmm. How old were you when that kind of happened?
I think I was 5 or 6 whenever we had to take that equipment up there to the main yard, and everybody was having a big auction, and and I was hanging out with my buddies and riding bikes and dirty as all get out and playing.
So you didn't really realize it?
I didn't, and I look back at it now and I think, man, to remember all of those men that were lined up that I got to watch them sell their equipment. My dad, my grandfather, every farmer that we helped and worked with, to know the dignity that they had to stand there and face and see that go on. It really takes you back when you look back at it now, because it's just I don't know if I'd react the same way that they did.
Yeah, that'd be pretty tough.
It would be.
Yeah. So going forward after that happened, what'd your journey look like?
So we maintained our family acreage there, which we had a small cow herd, still ran some wheat pasture calves. Dad got a job in town. We were active in our FFA, 4-H, everything, and continued. And agriculture was always still a mainstay. My brother and I both we continued to do that. I knew that I needed to go to college at that time. I didn't know where or what, and I even remember my school counselor saying, "I don't know if you're college material," and. But there was one.
Usually that means you're going to be successful in life, I think, when they say that.
I think so. I'll tell you, my ag teacher, Dennis McBroom, and my parents. My parents, neither one graduated college, but they were like, "You need to go. We're gonna help you. Don't know what that's going to look like, but you need to go." And my ag teacher, he took me down to A&M and brainwashed me like a good Aggie does. But Dennis took me around and he said, if you really want to go here, you're just going to have to find your way. And, in that weekend, it just ingrained in me that I'm going to A&M. Whether they like it or not, I'm going to go. And so I went back and I met the president of the university. I drove up. If you were down there, you were going to shake my hand and you were going to know my name when it come across your desk. And so I waited patiently and got that acceptance letter, went down there, graduated in 3 years. Like most people of that age, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But
what was your degree in?
I did ag development, and I'll tell you why, because I didn't know which direction to go. I focused on cattle, basically anything, dairy science. If it was a beef cow, a dairy cow, I kind of focused on that. Did have some business classes. But I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I had a thought that I wanted to go to law school, and then also I knew that entrepreneurial wise, like there was the need to get out and work. I was never scared to work, but I wanted to go do something and go make some money. Mm-hmm. That was number one. But why am I in agriculture? I don't know. Everybody told me, you can't make any money in ag and don't go that route. But I got some advice. Holly, my wife, it's her Uncle Mike. And Mike was very successful. He's made some money. And I said, Mike, I want to make some money like you. And he said, Jonathan, You need to find something you're passionate about and figure out how to make it. That's the only way you're going to be successful. And I sat there about as disappointed as a man could ever be, because I thought this is the worst advice that somebody could give me. But it turned out that was probably the best advice that I've ever gotten. Because I think a lot of times in agriculture, you're told, accept breaking even, accept losing a little money. You're not going to get rich. But if a guy is willing to kind of hunt around the edges, find something, success can be had. It's there.
I've had several people on the show that way about, that's kind of what it's about, like getting creative. You can make it in agriculture, ranching, or, whatever. I think most of the viewers are on the ranching side of things, but you can make it, but it's not going and buying 100 cows and leasing a place or something. I mean, I've done that. It's not going to make you a good living. But I mean, we've had people that leverage social media, that leverage other ways, leverage the markets that we'll get into. And I mean, just learning and like you said, if you're dedicated to it and that's all you think about, I think you can definitely do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's one of those situations where I think as we've got so many young people that have been told you can't, and they're wondering why we don't have anybody following in our shoes. It's not easy. But I know a lot of men and women across this country that have made a living in rural Nebraska, rural Kansas, North Dakota. I mean, you name every little town between California, South Carolina, Texas, and North Dakota. I promise you there's somebody that's making a good living in that small town. And they're probably the ones that are propping up the town. And while you may not feel like you've gotten anything handed to you, you don't need it. It's in those tough years that you're going to figure out how to get across and find profitability. And you got to dig deep. You got to find those unique opportunities, and just don't think too many times on it. If it makes sense, jump on it and go.
Yeah. It's I think everybody gripes about how times used to be, and one person could make it, the income for the whole family, or you just needed this much land to make it back then or whatever. But I also still think there's a lot more opportunity out there today, and there's definitely a whole lot more money, being as we printed so much in the past several years. So, and it seems like it's easier to get money if you can just figure out that skill. I know people that don't have any and don't have the skill are going to say that it's really hard to get, but
sure,
like once you work on it and it's out there.
On social media last night, matter of fact, I had a guy, he said the only way you got started is if somebody co-signed for you, or you had your parents give you land or equipment. I can promise you, they didn't give me nothing. They probably would have if they had it, but they wouldn't have given it to me. And I'm glad they didn't, because it took, to kind of fast forward a little bit. I got out of college, you get a job, you got to go make some money somewhere.
What'd you do with that advice of the find your passion?
So I'm working for Texas Farm Bureau as a field rep. We're doing ag education, we're doing working with farmers and ranchers all over Texas. We're lobbying on behalf of farmers and ranchers and Texas landowners. And
your passion, but you probably weren't making a whole lot of money.
Exactly. Like you're sitting there and you're like, okay, upside potential, it's not really there. I love the people. I mean, I will tell you, for me, that was a networking time in my life. Did I feel like I was hitting my full potential? No. But it was a good place to start. And it was a good place to build that, where I had some trust and some relationships with men and women that I didn't know were going to come back and help me 10 years, 20 years down the road. So I think for the younger listeners, never underestimate or never sell yourself cheap when it comes to networking. Take that time, use it, and use every bit of it, because it will come back and it will help you.
Yeah, I used to not think of it that way when I was younger, and I have this, but I'm not social. Like I don't like to go talk to people.
Sure.
So it's a chore that I've been working on, but also like same deal when I got out of college, I wanted to make some money somehow, also doing what I loved. And I looked at like the jobs that are available to somebody like that. And it's like, you could go work for a horse trainer or a ranch for $1,500, $2,000 a month or something. And I'm like, that doesn't sound good. But now I look back, and if that's what you really wanted to do, and you got around the right people, you worked for a really successful ranching, ranch, you got to be around a really good ranch manager or something like that, or horse trainer or anything like that. In any field, it could apply to any field. If you could be around the right people, you're basically getting paid to learn that craft, and then you can go apply it years down the road. If you look at it that way, I mean, you're getting paid to go learn something. DX Trailer Sales is based out of Lubbock, Texas, and it's definitely not just a trailer dealership. If you are involved in the Western way of life, and if you're listening to this show, you probably are, they have something you need. From trailers for a day working cowboy to a full-time cattle hauler to hay trailers for a farmer or rancher to arena drags, rope and chutes, and feeders for the rodeo cowboy or cowgirl. They also deal in every kind of hay any of your animals could ever need. Literally anything you need for farming, ranching, or rodeoing, they have something for you. And it's gonna be at a super affordable price. Besides all that, everyone you deal with there is super friendly and helpful. We just got new custom flatbeds built for our pickups, and I also got probably the coolest trailer you've ever seen built. And you can stay tuned for a video we're gonna do, and it's gonna show all of that and some more of their products also. So check out DX Trailer Sales on Facebook or dxtrailers.com.
Find those areas that you are passionate about. Like if it is in the equine side of it, like, yeah, go do some of the jobs that you're probably not going to make the money that you want to. But if that's where your passion is, that's where you want to be, you'll figure out where the spot is for you and create it.
Yeah.
Create that opportunity that you're looking for. I worked at Farm Bureau. I left there, had an opportunity to buy a farm and ranch. And it got to a point where, like everybody, you look for that place where you can go put 100 cows on. And I got to looking at that, and I said, that's not going to work. Like I need a diversified place, one that we could probably have some farming with it. I need a set of cows, and I want to be able to run yearlings. So it's going to have to be, but I can't go buy that piece by piece and make it work. And just so happened, a friend of ours was retiring as a ranch manager, and he put me in contact with the owner. And I was actually putting some weed in, and the owner, he came and rode the tractor with me, and we were planting his wheat. And he said, "I don't know what I'm going to do. I lost my manager, and I'm in my late 60s, early 70s, And he's like, I'm too old to start over." I said, "Well, why don't you just sell it to me?" And he goes, "You know how much that'd be?" I said, "Hey, fresh ideas in a new banker, we can get a lot of things accomplished." and so we get to talking the details. And later I told him, I said, if I'm going to do this, because they wanted to maintain the land, which perfectly fine with, because it was going to be a long-term asset. So I said, I want a long-term lease, and I want all the family members involved at a kitchen table at some point. I want everybody. So if there's any kind of disgruntled, I want everybody knowing what's happening, why the prices are what they are, so nobody feels like I'm taking advantage of anybody. And that if we're going to do something, it makes economic sense for us, but also we're being stewards to the ground. And by going through that, it took us 3 months to basically come up with a farm sale. But we bought it, and we've grown that from literally 80 acres. And this is a good story. When anybody says you can't get started in agriculture, it's a lie, because I had 80 acres I cash rented and didn't have a tractor, didn't have a plow, didn't have anything. This was right before China had put the tariffs on Roundup. They had shut down one of the plants. They bought one of the U.S. plants, shut it down. I had a 30-gallon drum of Roundup, and I traded that for a John Deere 230 disc. Well, there was a man that had he had doubled down on some genetics on some Angus cows. Well, they ended up having a defect, and so he literally was filing bankruptcy. And he said, "You can use my tractor. I want you to plow and put in those oats over there for me, but you can use it till the bank comes and gets it. So I hooked that tractor up and I plowed all night, all day, all night, got everybody's stuff in, planted our wheat, planted that. I mean, we just did everything we could to get it in. And a Z71 pulls up at the end of the turn row, and I'm about finished. And this guy gets out in khakis, and he walks across the field, sits in the buddy seat with me, and I'm thinking, I don't know if this is going to be good or bad, but we talked for a good while, and he said, hey, finish up. They told me the agreement, and if you can just have it to the bank by Thursday. And I said, okay, no problem. But that's how we got started. And then that led into, 80 acres that you're borrowing an unsecured loan, from your banker who didn't know ag at that time. Later we've become really good friends. I've taught him ag, he's taught me banking, and we've both gone different directions, but it's been great. But now we farm about 1,500 acres and run 400 cows, run yearlings when it makes sense, and do anything that we can to make a buck when it comes to the farming operation. Mm-hmm. And that farm has been the catalyst to allow me to continue to grow in other phases. So I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. I've always felt like being a servant, I think we're called to, just my beliefs. And so I started noticing the things that we were struggling with at the farm, from the banking side, from the crop insurance side, from the marketing side. And I got to really becoming a student of the markets. I went to the master marketer course, worked with a couple professors that, they kind of helped expand my knowledge. My broker, he and I got to be really good friends. And then he asked me one day, he said, hey, you're pretty good at this. Why don't you become a broker with us? And I said, I've never given it any thought. So got my Series 3 and Series 30, and I was a branch manager. And, and I started helping guys all over the U.S.
Before all that, were you still at Farm Bureau, or did you just full-time?
So there was a point there where I was kind of doing both. Farm Bureau probably didn't know that, but I was doing both, where I was working at night, and any time I could cut loose to go take care of that, I would. But then there came a point in the sand where, they weren't getting enough of me, and the farm wasn't getting enough of me, and so we had to make a decision. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, my boss, he was good as gold, and I probably that man. He had gray hairs. I think he's lost all of them, but I'm pretty sure I might have knocked about a third of those out during that whole time frame. But we're good friends to this day.
During that time too, how were you growing? Were you just leasing more stuff, or did you buy more? Or?
Yeah, we were leasing, and at that time I had just bought 50 acres at my house. And the reason I got to looking at land assets. Now I want land. I love land. It would be good on the balance sheet, but at that time, it would kill cash flow. So every bit of the operation would have gone if I'd have bought 300 acres. Now I would have looked like a genius if I could have fought through that. But at that time, I would not. It would have killed the growth and where we could have been, and the entire operation all the cash flow would have gone just to debt service that one place. So I chose to continue to grow to that point, and then just keep looking for opportunity. Mm-hmm.
Were you running? Did you start with cows or?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And we've kind of off and on throughout that. I've stayed with cow calf, and we just got a set of commercial Brangus type cows, nothing special, and we were running Angus bulls, red Angus bulls, and some Herefords intermixed in there. We focused on the natural program. Selling a lot of our stuff direct. The one thing I liked over the farming, if I grow corn, it's just number 2 corn. Your corn's no different than mine, and I can't negotiate a better deal. But with cattle, it's the wild frontier. And it always has drawn me to it because, man, it is, you and I may not get along trying to do a cow deal, but there's a guy in the panhandle that's looking for him. And, and we can, if your network's big enough, you're going to find somebody that you can fit those cattle with, and it's going to work for them. And I think in business, that's what we've got to do is, don't just settle. I think you had Ben Hale was on the show. Ben and Peyton have been good to me. There's times that I'll sell direct to feed yards, and when I think that the bids are too low and too cheap, and they're trying to steal the cattle, I call Peyton and I'm like, "Hey, what are they doing in Comanche?" And if he can get me some more money, and I mean, he'll be upfront and honest about it, and so I think building that network, we go back to that. I wanted to be able to market those cattle in every facet, and there's times we fed our own cattle. From a cash flow standpoint, it was probably the hardest thing to do, because you've got the factory that needs to be paid, and you got a banker asking, why are we not just taking the cash? And then here we are 6 months later, and it all worked out. But you definitely got to keep them, on your side during those times.
What, and like that, did you realize the marketing of your calf crop? Did you realize like you weren't just hauling to the sale barn, like I got to maximize that from the start? Or
absolutely. So what I noticed, because we were running a lot of yearlings on the game too, and so they might send us 6 weights, they might send us 4 and a quarters, and we've got this jumbled up mess that we're kind of cleaning up. But at the end of the day, we could market them in April. They'd send the trucks, and guess what? They are about as uniform as you could see. So I knew that even our calf crop that, was 60, 90 day kind of spread on those calves, you've got some up and down. And so when you wean and they're weighing, say they average 515, 5.5, my goal was to try to get those to that point where they uniform up. And at that time, 7 1/4, 750s, and then they started paying us a little bit more for getting them into 8 to 8.5, just because feed was high. So there's less days on feed. But I always took an opportunity wherever that spot was that it made more money for us. That's where I tried to market those.
And you just kind of, now I think we're getting back around to the markets and the brokering. Did you just started studying the markets to see where that sweet spot was, where you needed to be?
Yeah, think about it. Like everybody, I'd say predominantly, most everybody's spring calvers. So they're fixing to start weaning calves here in October. A lot of them are going to either take them to sale barns. They're going to end up being wheat pasture cattle. And my thoughts were it's no different than corn. Here we are fixing to run combines down here in Texas, and everybody's selling corn all at the same time. Well, why are we? Or you can also use the board. This is where I go into the studying that and figuring out that, hey, there's really 3 things going on. We've got basis, you've got the futures that are attached to the cash sell on there, or you've got the futures, which is the paper. So there's 3 trades that we've got to really pay attention to. And most of the guys you talk to, it's like, well, I've got a set of calves, I'm going to haul them to the sale barn, get paid one time. I don't know what you're talking about. But, we see as the market rallies and it's going to ebb and flow, and it always does every year. And you can kind of follow those seasonal patterns. Now, we have times where we are counter-seasonal, and that's going to happen too. But I think this goes back to, knowing what you've got in those cattle, knowing where you're profitable at, and having that target already set so that you're not riding the emotional market game. And that's where we end up holding those cattle, and taking $100 less because we just thought they're worth more. And, and then not understanding what the value add is. Are you doing program cattle, or are yours all black? Are they going to qualify for CAB, or are you doing the Red Angus dangle tag? Like what programs are you pushing? Or have you fed your own cattle and you've got the data behind it, and yours will feed at 3.8 conversion, and those guys will pay up for that because they know they're going to have half the feed cost. Create an opportunity to market your stuff better, even though you and I are both selling cattle.
There's a lot of difference.
There's a lot of difference.
I've had people, when I was working at the sale barn, I was working the unload, and they'd come in with like 5 calves in a bumper pull trailer, and like, what do you think they'll bring? They're going to bring what they're worth today. And, well, they're like, well, I want to PO them if they don't bring this much. I don't know. They've probably been looking at a market report or something. And sure enough, sometimes they would haul their 3, 4, 5 calves home after they've been exposed to all kinds of stuff at the sale barn and stuff. We're going to haul them home. And then I guess bring them back at another time. I'm like, this does not make any sense. I mean, I understand we want to get as much as possible, but they're going to bring what they're worth that day, unless you find a different way to do it like that.
Absolutely.
And have a plan. It's funny. Every brand out there claims they've built the ultimate Western performance shirt, but most of them are more involved in other industries. Finally, there's one that actually is different. Introducing Horn Knot. One detail changes the game. This has literally never been done before. A patent-pending hidden zipper pocket with an extendable lens cloth, so you can clean your shades or your phone without untucking your shirt. It's simple, smart, and practical. I also like that you can fit your phone in the front pocket. And here's what I love. Horn Knot kept their designs classic, the most traditional pearl snaps you'll find anywhere. Great colors and vintage pocket designs. These are the same shirts I wear to work in, and you've probably seen me wearing them right here on the podcast. They even built a ladies line, not fake pockets or bad fits, but real Western shirts built to flatter and function. My wife Shady shows and works in these shirts, and there's nothing else like them.
Get yours today and save 20% with code Crockett at hornknot-brkwy.com. Horn Knot and Breakaway. Learn more at hornknot-brkwy.com.
I think even now there's such a push for retail beef, for farm to plate, and and I think for us that are we've done that. We've kind of looked into different things. I even see guys selling cattle cheaper right now, retail cuts than what you can get just selling them commercial. But they're taking all the time to do it, and I've always felt like if you could get 8,000 to 15,000 in the retail cuts, like now you're doing something. Like let's get it to where you're actually making a profit, because processing's gone up. Like you look at all the stuff, the feed, the time, and if you really truly want those cattle to get prime, it's going to take more days on feed. It just depends on what product that you're trying to.
The interest has gone up.
Yeah.
I talked to a guy the other day that does that, and he was saying it's tougher. Everybody was doing it in 2020, and you're getting a really good premium, but now it's like everything's so high. You could go sell them at the sale barn and probably get, the same, unless you just start jacking up your prices, and everybody's scared to do that because then you'll drive away your customers.
Well, and I'll tell you, I spent some time in New York a couple weeks ago. It was really interesting to talk to several of the folks there, because that was the first thing that they wanted to know. Do you have any beef to sell? I'm like, yeah, we do. Here's the box. And I didn't tell them what we charge. Now, on that box, we were charging $120, but people in New York said I would pay $300 for that. So always remember who their clientele that you're trying to sell to. And I want to sell to the local market too. But if I could send half of the beef that we sell in a year to New York or Chicago, and why not expose them to the quality product that we have? It's comparably priced. I mean, obviously you've got some logistics issues and some things, but anytime you've got to figure out problems, that's where money's made. So don't be scared of it.
Yeah. You brought up the seasonal markets. I wanted to say that, talking about Ben. He was saying, he's like, you could buy a calf. Nobody wants a calf in October. You could buy some calves in October and just put them on hay and liquid feed until February. They don't gain any weight, but they're worth more money in February than they were in October.
Yeah, and I've been on both ends of that. That October deal. You look for a deal, but we've had some good death loss, and I had a Robert Clement up in Munster, Texas. Robert always used to say, anytime he had a bad death loss that was coming, Robert would just say, "Man, we got to buy more," And so I kind of went
dollar cost average,
dollar cost it down, and keep rolling, and don't have a weak stomach, and and like we always looked for stuff that we could value add. So get the cutter bulls. Nobody likes them when they show up, but at the end of the day, we were cleaning them up. We had something that actually had a profit built in before they went to wheat pasture. And I think just finding that niche that works. And I think the other thing, those niches change. Don't get so stuck in a rut. Like there's times where it makes sense to go a totally different route, and I've been in every facet. We've done the embryo reset program with the wing calf stuff. I've done the purebred cattle, which I mainly did that. Just my kids, they show. My wife grew up raising Santa Gertrudis, and I was like, I don't know if I'm down with doing this, but I found a breeder out in New Mexico, and they raise some really neat, moderate framed Santa Gertrudis, and so we've been playing with those, and I've kind of been I've been using kind of American Red and taking the Red Angus and kind of making some mixes there, and I think we've got a cow that's pretty hardy for the Southeast, and then you get into some of these harsh conditions, but you could throw a Hereford bull back on that. You've got a really pretty calf. The females bring good money. The steers, they'll feed and finish, and usually are pretty efficient. There's just a lot of opportunity, I think, out there, and for somebody that's looking for a niche.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's same deal. I played around with everything, and I think sometimes I haven't stuck with stuff long enough, but finding that niche and like you said, I think it's always changing at some point. Mm-hmm. Jack Buchanan was on here and he said you got to be a moving target and not do just because Grandpa did it or that's the way you always did it or whatever. You can't just stick with it.
That'll get you in trouble more than anything. It's just not being able to move and shake and be nimble, and I think keep your banker and keep your banker on your side, whatever that finance arm is. Mm-hmm. Just make sure that they understand what you're doing so that if you completely shift gears today, there's a reason and it makes sense, and they may look at you cross-eyed, but at the same time, as long as they know where you're headed and you've got a track record, even though you may go against the grain, 9 times out of 10, it's always worked out. And
I saw this hilarious reel. I thought it was hilarious on Facebook the other day, and it was a rancher and a banker, and it was a little clip of Central Intelligence, and it was The Rock and Kevin Hart, and he's like, all I need to know is, are you in? Are you out? And he said, I'm out for sure, 100%. I'm out. And he said, wrong answer. You're already in. And that's like, I mean, I could see that just with the banker conversation. Like, no, if you have to be in now, we're already committed.
We're already committed. No, we've had that conversation several times, and and sometimes you just got to help them get committed.
Yeah. Let's go back to you got your broker's license.
Yeah. So I get to working with our firm, and and it's a commission based deal, and I remember being up there talking to a lot of the brokers there. I'm still farming and ranching, and I'm still tied to ag.
Where were you at? Did you have an office you went to? Or?
I was there in Eastland, and so we were still in Central Texas, but I had guys all over the U.S. that we worked with, and we'd fly to Chicago, and it was interesting because I felt like there was a disconnect. I felt when I was in Chicago and I was talking to a lot of the brokers that do this full time. I mean, they were just. That's all they did was man the phone all day. And I feel like for some of those guys, they didn't truly understand what we were going through on the production side down here. And then us as producers, we didn't understand the mechanism of trading commodity futures or options. And so I felt like, man, there's such a disconnect. And I'm sitting here, and it just I had several clients that I would have a conversation with 3 times a week. And we might spend 3 hours, and those guys would trade. Let's just say we did 6 contracts in a year. So I'm spending a lot of time with them, and my family gets $150. And so you see you're sitting here and you're looking at it and you're kind of like, he didn't need to trade more. That wasn't the answer. The answer is he had more problems in the operation that he needed help with. And that's where I kind of felt like, okay, I'm going to step aside and I'm going to go out on my own because I can solve more problems for these producers because I visually see it and I've seen it over and over and over again. And again, this comes back to the entrepreneurial spirit. Everybody asks me, like, what's a good business to start? Find a problem and solve it. And it's as simple as that. And I know that's not what they want to hear, but it really is that simple.
The bigger problems you solve, the more you get paid.
Exactly. Exactly. And, and I started, I was helping producers along the way. And my wife, she's like, you're on the phone with so-and-so again. And, and I'm like, yeah, I am. And she's like, look, you're fixing a lot of things for these guys. You need to be getting paid for it. And that's when we started Empire Ag. In Empire Ag, I started out, we've had a foundation, body, mind, and spirit. Those are the three pillars that I feel like, one, us as ag producers, we're hard on our body. We don't eat right. You spend long hours. You don't sleep. You got stress, cortisol levels out the wazoo. You're a roller coaster of emotions, depending on where the markets are. So I felt like we needed to focus on that. Mentally and spiritually. And I felt like from the mental side, like we needed to get them in a good spot. One, for their spouse, for their kids, for everybody that they come in contact with. And because there's a lot of us, we've all seen the old crusty rancher or farmer that's just, everything. It looks like somebody shot their dog right in front of them every time you see them, and I just got to a point where I felt like we needed to move in a different direction. And so spiritually, I feel like a lot of times the negativity we have is they just completely lose sight of why we're here. And this goes back to, I feel like, I'm called to be a servant and to help, and I've got a knowledge and I want to use that and to help these guys be profitable. If I could just snatch all that stress that they're encountering, from the bank, the droughts, the what ifs, the guy that stole their lease place from, everything that they're dealing with. If I could just pull that away, I would. But we kind of started off there, and we're doing a lot of business strategy, deep diving into what the operation is. Is it, are they suffering from employees, not sticking around, or maybe they don't even have any employees, or here's one. Hey, I hadn't had a paycheck in 10 years. I've dealt with several of them in that same situation. So we try to bring some structure, do a lot of business strategy with those individuals. The one thing that I did notice over the years was their financials were in shambles. I love it whenever I sit down with a new client, and it's like, hey, what's your break even on this? What's your break even on that? And it's always a general number. If they start off with that, I got 200 an acre in it, or, them old cows, I run them and they're about $350, $400 is what I got in them. And then we go do a deep dive into some actual financials, and I find out that it's usually double. Whatever they say, it's usually double. And that really tells you. So how are we marketing a product that we don't even know if we got a profit built into it, let alone if we can cover any of our costs? And we're the world's worst because we just hide it, and we hide it on next year's operating note, and then we just keep going until the snowball just continues to get bigger. Mm-hmm. And so that's when we started Empire Financial Services, which is our accounting arm. Our goal was to create clean financials, not only for tax purposes, but now we've worked them through. We've got a program. It's called Figured. We bring all their QuickBooks data in. I'm able to get managerial books and create a 2-page loan document that we can actually get out there to lending institutions. It's already underwritten. They don't have to really go hunt and dig. It's all there. It's clean and it's neat. Because I feel like if we can't tell our financial story, how are we going to expect to let them, loan us $200,000 to go expand the operation somewhere, if we can't even tell our own story? So we went in and we kind of did that and put all of our guys through that program. And we've worked with banks all over the country. There's not one bank that operates the same. I would tell everybody that's listening, if you're having trouble with your bank, like, one thing, get your house in order. But two, realize that there's somebody out there. It's just like dating. You're going to find somebody out there that actually looks at you and says, you know what, he's worth taking a shot on. And I just feel like a lot of times we just get buried in and we let that negative energy loop just kind of keep pushing us. And especially in agriculture, we're just a unique animal.
Yeah. I was watching Shark Tank the other night, and they rejected this guy's deal, and they were talking about like the guy from Starbucks. They said he got rejected like 242 times from VC firms and stuff until he finally got it. And it's like, most people would give up, way before 200.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But he just kept at them, and look what that's turned into. So it's hard, especially for us. I mean, when I got into sales, it's like nobody likes rejection, and but like you got to just keep going, especially if you believe in it.
100%.
I wanted to ask you, like, so when you went out on your own and started that, where were you finding clients? How did that come? If you didn't hear Ben Hale's story on episode 69, you need to check it out. He's been earning trust in the cattle industry one handshake at a time since 1995 at Western Livestock. Western Livestock is proud to be family owned and operated now with 5 locations: Oklahoma City, Woodward, Comanche, and Waurika, Oklahoma, and also Knoxville, Iowa. They're proud to do business the Western way with honesty, integrity, and a handshake that still means something. You can join them ringside or stream their sales from wherever you are. Western Livestock, where a handshake is their word, cattle are money, and timing is everything. If you're looking to buy or sell, contact Ben Hale at 940-631-BEEF. That's 940-631-2333. Check them out on Facebook or westernlivestock.com. Western Livestock is now accepting consignments for their September 20th horse sale in Woodward, Oklahoma. Visit westernlivestock.com to learn more.
One, I started, it was kind of friends and family. So like when I started, I was just looking Texas, Oklahoma. I was thinking, hey, I'm going to stick close to home. That's the way we're going to do it. I spoke at a few events, and then next thing you know, I got a guy from Kansas. I got a guy from Missouri, and you start to grow this, and I'm like, hey, why am I thinking so small? And you start to look, and it doesn't matter where we're at in the country, we're battling the same things. I will say Texas has kind of shifted a little bit with all the Californians that have moved in. Our real estate values have kind of shifted a lot in 5 years as far as viability of being able to grow an operation. So that's definitely been to me a big thing for us to kind of evaluate and look. But it doesn't matter. We've got clients in PA, New York, South Carolina, California, and everywhere in between.
Mm-hmm. Were you to get that reach, did you start like digital marketing or
social media? So we also have a brand strategy division now. And our teammate, Brooke, she's joined our team now, but she was originally the one that helped us brand. And I think one of the key, and you understand this, branding is key. You need a consistent message. And I think for us, we went down that road. We built a really nice website. We got consistent with our message on all platforms. So, Instagram, TikTok, you name it, like we use that. And I mean, I've had 5 guys reach out last week, 3 signed up, and 2 so far this week that have signed up via, social media. Mm-hmm. And so we've been really in the setting up the systems and processes. We started out, it was just me. Now we have a team of 12. So I had to make it to where I'm not the guy, we've got everything kind of set up now and streamlined. And so we know that our reach is growing. We have a guy in Delaware that we've talked with. It's amazing the amount of agriculture that's across this country and how diverse it is.
We seem to think pretty small-minded. I've had people reach out that listen to the show from all over, and I just, and I just think small, Texas, Oklahoma, our little area. But it's crazy to see the reach, and that, like you said, the people all over the country, the world, are going through kind of the same struggles.
And I spoke in New Zealand at an ag summit back in February, and And it was eye opening to see, what the farmers are dealing with in the UK, what New Zealand's dealing with, what Australia's dealing with, and really to be able to, summarize that. That was a really neat trip. It was really eye opening for me, just to be able to give them a perspective on U.S. agriculture.
Did you come home and you're like, dang, we got it good over here?
We really do. We really do. I will say, man, the food over there in New Zealand was awesome. I don't know. It's just something about it. It just tasted so good. Just things that I wouldn't eat over here. And you're just kind of like, yeah, I'd try that out.
I'm just trying to think, like your client, they're probably, if they're in a bad spot already, and then you're asking them, because you're for profit. So like, then you're asking them, you're going to have to pay me also. You're in a bad spot and you're going to have to find the money to pay me to fix your problem.
Yep.
Like how?
So I'll tell you, that was a struggle. That was a struggle for me because I knew they needed help and I knew I could help them, but I also knew the time that it was going to take to get there. And so I struggled with that in the early years. How do you charge? How do you do it? Now we have a system about it. I know how many hours that it's on average, just because we've dealt with hundreds of guys now. I know where we're going to be. So we have everything kind of packaged out, for them to kind of keep that simple. And I think looking at that and realizing that there comes a point where if you really want to make change, you've got to make the investment. And I know, Crockett, if you were looking to come in with us, if you weren't willing to invest in yourself, why am I willing to invest in you? And that was a hard lesson for me to understand, because it's a mindset shift. And you may not have a bunch of problems within the operation, but you may have some efficiencies that we can easily find. And that's what a lot of our clients, most of them have been with us over 5 years. So obviously they're seeing value because they keep coming back. Mm-hmm. And it's been eye-opening and definitely been a wild ride. I've enjoyed everything we've put together. And recently we've had with, inflation, let's just call it 2020. We saw inflation. We saw everything kind of shift. Agriculture has just got so many ups and downs right now. Right now, the beef industry, everybody's just doing backflips, and you just can't hardly mess up in the cattle side right now, which that's always scary. But on the crop side,
might make you think you're smarter than you are.
Yes, exactly. And there's some guys that have made some big money. The big talk, was margin call. There were a lot of folks in urban areas that decided they were going to feed cattle just to make some extra money, and they've had some $100,000 to $200,000, $300,000 margin calls, and that's tough to swallow, and that makes a man second guess what his side gig was to begin with, and to watch that kind of evolve and see where the cattle are prospering right now, but the crop side, it's pretty doom and gloom right now in the crop sector. But again, we're in the process of solving problems. That's the way we look and approach our business at all angles. And so we've just recently, we created EA Capital. I got tired of fighting banks. I had guys that were 10%, 11%, loan to value, and getting nasty letters from the bank that they've done business with for 20 years. And you call the bank and they're like, hey, well, we're under new management because we got bought out. And I'm sitting here going, I remember when I was 5. And
full circle.
And I feel like, okay, 2 weeks ago, we had 2 guys get their notes called. They had made all their payments and they didn't owe anything until May. And the bank gave them 21 days to remedy the situation. And I mean, these are profitable. One of them has astounding cash flows. Like, I was blown away. And I talked to the bank and they were scared. They were like, well, what if his cash flow diminishes? I'm like, well, what if
the risk you take?
Yeah. What if the world turns over? I mean, I don't know what to tell you, but obviously you're not willing to ride with him. And so we came in and cleaned up some stuff for him and got the bank. We've got another lending institution that we're working with to kind of get him in there. But EA Capital's funding a bridge loan for him, and we did a similar situation for a ranch in Montana. It was crazy. The bank got bought out. Next thing you know, they're sending them a letter. Hey, we're gonna take the ranch and everything, sell it, whatever's left over, you get. And I mean, this particular individual did not owe that much money. We couldn't get anybody to talk to us, and so EA Capital came in, and we were able to kind of help that. It's been fun to raise private funds. So, one thing about it, I mean, we have private investors, so we have to have a return with them. The one thing that's different about us is, so if you invest in yourself and you're part of our network and in our mastermind, then, you're in the group and we're getting to know you. I want to know the integrity that Crockett has before I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to loan you money. And that does come with time. But everybody that's been with us, they've been able to kind of flow into Empire Financial Services, where our accounting team has been able to take really good care of them and get them to the next level. So not only are we know you as an individual, and now we've got your financials, and we see that, and we see where you're headed. And maybe you don't fit the little box that they're trying to put you in, but you're just a little bit out here. We'll work with you. Our goal is to get you to where you're financed and get you back either to a lending institution that wants to work with you, or maybe you stay with us. We get some things cleaned up, and then we kind of move on down the road.
Have you seen producers that, like, to you everything's good, they're efficient, they're profitable, they're on a good trajectory, but they still, like, a bank doesn't want them? And
I had one in Nebraska get his note called. Farmed 10,000 acres, $2 million cash, had 2,000 acres nearly paid for, had about $500,000 in land debt, and had about $1.7 million in equipment. Man's 68. They just said, we don't want any ag exposure. And I called the loan officer, and I'm thinking, this guy's like, this is what everybody strives to be. Like, what are we pulling the plug on this guy? And it's just the higher ups. I mean, we're getting a lot of folks that are in charge of the banks now. A lot of our longtime lenders and senior folks in these banks, we don't have the cheerleader there that grew up farming and ranching. Mm-hmm. And not that the banks are bad. I don't mean to beat up on the bankers. There's a lot of really good ones, but they're still having to, work within a framework that's pushed down on them. And so even though you and I may not fit their box, they're good people. They just can't put us in there and help get us where we want to go. And that's just gotten so tight. And I will say, I've had more calls. When Bloomberg put out the article about last summer about how tough agriculture was going to be, within 1 week, there were so many nasty letters that were sent out across the country to bankers that I knew we were headed for a wreck at that point. And so we were already positioning our guys into, whether it was, if we were heavy equipment, we were trying to liquidate it then. Like, let's get our house in order because, and some of them looked at me and said, are you sure? Because I really don't want to sell this right now. But I thought, you know what, things could get real tough, but it may be an opportunity for a generation where we could pick up the neighboring farm, or we may be able to buy that half section that's sitting there that we've thought we'd never be able to afford. And I would rather you be able to do that than have a bunch of debt on some equipment that you could do without. Mm-hmm. And so we really tried to position our guys to where we're able to just capitalize on it. And I'll tell you, I mean, some of these banks that they make them feel like crap. They don't want to deal with them. We've come in and helped get them with one of our partnering banks that we've kind of worked with. We've got a relationship with a bank that maybe we'll unroll later in the fall, but we're going to be able to kind of work with them where our guys can service their loans with us, and we're just trying to create avenues where we understand ag, and I'm willing to play ball. And I know, like, I want to go back to relationship-based banking. And yes, it does need to make sense. But if we're sitting on the edge, I'll take a chance on you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we're trying to kind of really flip the script. And honestly, we're not reinventing the wheel. The wheel was already here. It was here back in the 60s and 70s. I'm just trying to go back to something that we can actually play with in our industry.
Yes, it seems like the banking has gone so corporate, and you see that pendulum swing. And now I'm seeing, I don't know when that happened, after the 08 or when it was, but it seems now it's swinging back to where you're seeing some more hometown banks come up, and then I see so much private capital. I mean, even what y'all have going on in agriculture, you don't see it as much in agriculture, but in real estate and business funding, there's just a lot of guys that I just follow from afar or involved with in business associations or something. They're funding businesses, funding real estate with private capital, just because you can't go get it conventionally anymore.
Absolutely. I would say, I think it was 2 years ago, I think it was 11% of all loans in the United States were private capital. This past, I think it was back in the spring when it was put out, it was nearly 38%. 38%. That's a big market share that has left the community banks. And I think you got two things that have happened. I think one, are we in a full-blown recession? I don't know. I don't know if we are, but I do know that everybody's household is tight. And so deposits are probably down. And then what has happened with inflation? The small mom and pop they needed $1 million revolving line of credit. They farmed. They hoped to make $200,000 at the end of the year, but if they did 40, they were happy. Those folks now are having to borrow $2 million to do the same thing. And so I think what you've seen is loans in the loan concentration in agriculture has gone out of whack. And I think what happens is when you see a mature industry like ours with such a high cost to get into, it starts to revolve and shift into more private credit. And I think that's where we're headed. I know we have got commitments for, we're going to start a couple other funds that are about to kick off, and we're just going to continue to grow. I mean, my goal is to revolutionize ag finance across America, and anybody that wants to partner with us, I am going to push and push and push, because I've seen the stress that it's there, and I think it's really undue. We talk about the mental health crisis, and this money stress is one of the biggest things that we have pushed a lot of these guys, and a lot of it's not their fault. They have worked hard. We've always said, just go work harder. Mm-hmm. You can't fix this problem by working harder. Output is about as efficient as we can get it. Whether it's grain farming, cotton, cattle, it doesn't matter. But those stresses, I think public policy, I've tried to get Brooke Rollins and her team to, I've got several ideas where we could kind of, push and build some opportunities for the American producer. And I want Empire Ag to be at the table.
How are you raising money? How are you doing these funds, like finding investors?
Honestly, it's relationship, and like
is it? I guess to better phrase the question, is it coming from like producers that have a good balance sheet and have some money to set aside, or is it some people from outside the industry? Willow Creek Cattle Company develops and breeds hundreds of heifers a year for their customers. They can buy, develop, and AI heifers to the bull of your choice. They're located in Northeast Kansas in the heart of the Flint Hills, so they can also start and grow your grass cattle. The U.S. cow herd is currently at the lowest inventory ever recorded, and with these record high calf prices, Willow Creek Cattle Company can provide a turnkey supply of AI bred heifers to help you rebuild your herd. Give them a call for all your backgrounding and heifer development needs, 620-344-2795.
Both. So I've got folks from New York. I've got folks from Chicago. I've got folks everywhere in between, Dallas, Fort Worth, that believe in agriculture. Maybe they grew up on a farm. They sold a business for $100 billion and they think, you know what, you've got a good idea and I want to get behind that. And so they have put in a sizable amount of capital. And we have a couple ranches that are in good shape that have invested, with us, that I've had long time relationships. A lot of this goes back to networking.
Mm-hmm.
I have networked and networked and networked my whole life. And I never went to them and asked for a dime until now because I believe in it. And I wanted to make sure that if I ever used that I was using it for the right thing. And it wasn't just a profiteer type move. Mm-hmm. It was something that truly was going to make a difference. And we have got so many people that have stepped up to the forefront. They believe in the mission. They see the stresses. They didn't understand what was really going on, the scope of it. I've been able to speak at so many different conferences and private meetings and with wealth individuals, and it has been eye-opening, not only for me to realize that there are tables that exist that I didn't know even were there, but to be able to sit with those individuals and realize that they put their pants on one leg at a time, just like me, and for them to really have a passion and an understanding for what we go through and what we're doing. It has been eye-opening to watch them step in front and invest with us. And what's been really cool, it's kind of been a side spot, is some of our farmers and ranchers that have actually been borrowers, but they believe in it so much because of what we've done that now they're investors.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, this was not what I set out to do, but I think that's going to be the side part that it's like, hey, I want to invest in you guys because you took a chance on me, and no matter how small or big, like we're trying to solve problems out here.
Yeah. And it seems like a good way to deploy capital. Like if you have a bunch of capital, you got to put it to work. You go make $1 million, put it with you at 10% or, whatever the numbers are going to be,
mm-hmm.
You're going to do pretty good. And then you could go fund your own ranch or whatever. I mean, it's really cool. And it's, that's why I tell people, like we kind of mentioned earlier, like a whole lot of money out there.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a good deal or a good business plan, you can go find, it may take 250 people or,
absolutely,
whatever it's going to be to find that person. But people with money have to put it to work. Most people that have money and keep money understand that they got to go invest it somewhere and grow it. They're not just out spending it. So, and plus you have the consultation side. I mean, it sounds like a really good deal.
So for us, and that's one of the things that they really like, is they looked at a lot of private credit models. We're one of the only ones in agriculture that has our own underwriting side. So like when it comes to, we're not just out here trying to just put loans out, we've taken a vested interest in every client that we have from start to finish. And so when they saw that model and how we do what we do, they're in. And we've got the assets that are backing it. We know what's going on. So it's not like we give you $1 million to go do whatever project you're working on, and you just, who knows where it goes.
Mm-hmm.
We're tracking that. We're seeing those invoices come through. My girls that are working on the accounting side and in a CFO level role, like they know, and they're able to monitor that, and they know that this department, we've deployed this much to him, and here's what he's working on. We need the equity that kind of balances that out. Mm-hmm. So it's been fun to work through that with these guys and to kind of put that piece. I originally thought I'd buy a bank, but one of my original banker, to kind of sum this up, I taught him ag and he taught me banking. He's now the president of a large publicly traded bank. And he and we have talked about this, and I told him, I said, I'm buying a bank. And he said, don't do it. Don't do it. The regulatory environment, you're not going to be able to do what you want to do with the clientele that you have. And there's too many regulations out there to be able to service just the ag community. So we get to digging through it, and private equity, private credit, it's really opened my eyes. I was blessed that LinkedIn, and we talk about social media and having a network. there was a lady that reached out, Sharon Beach. She's our chief investment officer now, and she worked private equity for 8 years. She saw our mission and what we were doing with Empire Ag, and she said, I want to be a part of that. I want to help you get to where you want to be. It's just not going to be the traditional banking model that you're looking at. And so we started that, set it up, got everything kind of off and running, and we're excited. We're excited to be in this spot. You know, it's taken a long time. It's been a vision. You know, you dream of these things 10 years ago, and can we really achieve that? Can we really get there? And that was back whenever it was just me and my pickup, you know, and thinking Texas and Oklahoma is the only place we can impact. So we've really grown, and you know, and to watch that evolve, I'm excited about where the future is going to take us. You know, we're working on some things right now to where I look, like I said, I look at problems. So what are farmers struggling with? Equipment cost and inputs. My goal is to, one, figure out how we can get a cheaper input and cheaper equipment for these guys, and leverage our vast network across the country to be able to do that. And then on the other side, we have EA Capital that we can, you know, funding for projects that big has been a problem. Well, maybe we can utilize our funding mechanism to kind of get us over the hump and really start adding some value. Because, you know, at some point, cattle sector is it's going to struggle. I mean, it's going to ebb and flow. And I'm not saying that, you know, we aren't short numbers, but if you look at carcass value or weights and where we've gone, we're not that short when it comes to actual meat. I mean, I think every set of cattle I've seen come out in the last couple of weeks has been, you know, 1550 to 16 and a half. I've even seen some 1900s go in that, you know, you'd think they'd get a deduct, but I think they were so short that week that they didn't care. So at some point we're going to see that shift, and I think producers need to be ready for when it evolves.
Yeah, I like that model. I had Chad Oliva on with the Farm Credit Bank and talking about that. And I have people reach out to me too. My first deal was FSA, which I had a little collateral to put up, and it seems like so many people when you're starting out, you don't have any collateral.
Sure.
And it's like, you got to go get something, you know, you got to go get a financial statement, learn financial statement, liabilities, assets, some money or something paid off. And then you can come and you have something to shop back around with and get started. But, and it sounds like you even have, do y'all start on your consulting side, like with just beginning people, or
everybody? I mean, we got folks that are brand spanking new, never been into ag, and I've got guys that have, you know, they're in their late 50s that they've got a very well run business, but they know that there's something they can tweak. You know, they're always looking to be better, and I think that to me signifies. When I started this, you know, a lot of folks have some programs out there, and it's cookie cutter, and it's just a one size fits all. And I understand that. When you're looking at scalability and being able to do that, I have stuck with the model where everyone is different. Your operation's different than the next guy, you know, and you guys may be both running 100 cows, but I promise you there's something different. And to find that and help them navigate, you know, where they are on a more personalized basis, that has been crucial for our business. And as we grow, we've got a plan for growth with some of the folks that are coming on board in a coaching role. I think we've got it set up to where, you know, and we are selective about who comes in. You know, I think one thing about it, you've got to have the right mindset. To me, mindset's everything. And if they're not ready for change, they're not going to get where they want to go. And it's not going to be good for us because we're going to waste time that we could be spending with somebody that's ready for that change. That's kind of the way we like to set it up.
Yeah. And that goes back to making the investment yourself and actually putting your effort out to utilize what y'all are teaching. Cause I see it on business side of things and other side of things of like there's lots of courses and stuff. I do stuff all the time, courses and mentorships and stuff for myself. And it's like, and I tell people that all the time that I can't afford to do this or that. And I'm like, well, there's enough free stuff out there for you to go get started and make some money where you can afford the next step and really dial in, or go get creative and find the money and just invest in it, and it's going to get you where you want to be faster. I mean, that's all you're doing is crunching down the time frame.
Totally agree. And surround yourself around people that are going to make you better, even if it costs you money. Because I feel like if you're not willing to invest in yourself, I promise you are not going to reach the goals that you want to get to. The value that you see that you could bring to the world. And I think it truly, and I know it's cliche, but I mean, you know, what do you want them to say whenever you're gone? You know, did you really hit and make a difference in the world? Because that's what everybody says. That's what, you know, everybody kind of talks about that. And then they get out there and they get slapped by the world. And what's the first thing we do? We curl up and we kind of think, well, you know, I'm just going to keep on with the same old. But, and it's not about being tough or anything, but it's build yourself up and do that in all means, you know, and I really think you go back to the core 3 for us, you know, body, mind, and spirit. Build your mind, build your body, and build your spirit. Because all 3 of those, when you get those working together, you can make wise decisions in your business. But when you're struggling and you can't see which way's up, you know, and all you hear is the negativity that you see at the coffee shop, and you know, and you just let those negative loops just sit there and swirl, and then your wife, you know, she's on you because of whatever reason, and you probably deserve it. But maybe if you had everything in check, maybe you would see why she's upset, and you could change that, you know, and little changes make big changes. And I think for us, it's just trying to hone in on all of that.
What's some financial advice you'd give to maybe a young producer or just somebody struggling in general?
You know, I think one of the biggest things that I've learned over the years, and I really think a lot of our younger folks don't understand it, but you know, right now, if a man could put together $1 million, which it sounds like a lot of money, and I know if you're 25 years old and you're out here, you know, busting your hump and you're making 50, 60, 70 grand, you know, and you've got a set of cows and you're kind of building wealth, start putting it together. Start saving. If you're selling a set of calves and you got 125 grand coming in, take 20 or 25, set it aside and start putting it to work. Because when you're 40, you need about $2 million. And if you can get $2 million making 16, 18, 20%, because it's out there, private equity, private credit, you know, there are other opportunities out there that you can make money that's in that upper 15, you know, north kind of returns. It doesn't take a lot, you know. If $1 million could sit here and put 150 grand in your pocket, but you're still out here working and doing your thing, let that compounded interest work for you. And I think a lot of people don't realize how much compound money, that's where it's at. And you've said it before in some of your shows. I like the best money is the money that I make when I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
and it's the truth. I think that's one of the things. We're always in that mindset of just work harder and try to, you know, try to get there. But if I was in my 20s, you know, one thing I would do is really start saving for real, and not just saving and putting it aside, but save it and put it to work, and let that capital kind of grow for you. Second thing I'd say is learn financial statements. You know, understand one thing: cash flow's king. You want to grow a business, learn how to cash flow. I think one topic that I've kind of worked with some of my farmers and ranchers, they've been in business for a long time. They're making good money, and they just want to invest in something different. So, you know, Cody Sanchez, Main Street Millionaire, you know, she has a good book out, talks about a lot, you know, washing laundromats, you know, Bar 7 Ranch, they've got a laundromat. You know, there's different ones that have kind of talked about different things that you can do that you could be a Main Street millionaire. Well, think about the tools and the resources that we have as farm and ranch folks, the amount of management that goes into what we do with the smallest amount of margin. Go put that in a business that actually has a margin.
Yeah.
Think about the profit that can be driven in that. And I'm not trying to, advise folks to get away from agriculture. I just think diversify what you got going on and take your money and make it turn into more money. Wealth is a great thing, but it's not that you're trying to be, some evil rich guy, but you want wealth so that you can move and shake when you need to, and you got stability.
It gives you options.
Yep.
Kind of on that same deal, you mentioned one, but like, what are some good resources, books or podcasts or courses, anything like that?
There's a book called The Speed of Trust, and it was a book I read early on, and I think for a lot of folks, selling is a bad word, and I think The Speed of Trust, I would highly recommend everyone read that. And one reason, I think it's all about relationships. Selling. Crockett, you want to do business with me because you and I have a relationship. Whereas if somebody off the street and there's 10 guys lined up, they can just take their pick. But it's all about the speed of trust. And so I highly recommend that everyone read that, even if you're not in a sales role, because that speed of trust is going to help you. You've got to sell yourself when you're trying to rent ground against 5 other guys. You got to sell yourself to the banker. There's sales is in everything we do. So I highly recommend that book. The Savannah Bananas, the owner, he's got a unique story. He's gone all in.
I've just been seeing this. I never knew kind of anything about it. And then I was like, it'd be cool to go to a game. And then I researched, like, they have a whole program. And then I saw a video about that guy. And then the book, I don't know why it all started, if he just came out with all that stuff or what, but it's pretty interesting.
So Jesse Cole, I took my son to D.C. He is a patriotic American through and through, and I mean, he wanted to go to D.C. Well, it just happened. My wife, she got us tickets there at the National Stadium, and the day before the game, the gate was open, and Jack and I were sitting there eating, and he goes, "Dad, I think I saw some of the bananas in there." I was like, "Well, let's go." So we walk across. Well, the security, they let us in, and we go over there. We hang out with the bananas for an hour and a half. We get to meet them all, and it was a great trip. And it was really cool I got Jesse Cole's book, and about creating fans first. And I think with Empire Ag, it's kind of some of those same principles, and it goes back to fulfilling what you need to fulfill in a business and creating fans first. Take care of them. They will be loyal, and they will be with you until the end. And that's one of the things that we feel is crucial. For folks that are looking to grow a business, I think Traction, read the book Traction. I think it's very important that you can put people in the right seats and you can help them flourish. A lot of times I think we just shove someone in a position, and maybe we don't set them up for success. I take it personal with everyone that's an employee of ours that I've got them in a role that they can flourish and they can do well. And so I would say those are 3 that I really take personal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are some good ones. I've got a whole list of books and stuff, so I'm always looking for some more. What are some money myths in agriculture?
Money myths. Ooh, trying to think. Money myths in agriculture. I think one of the things that you can only marry it or inherit it. I think when you get to that, and I don't know if that kind of goes to where you're headed, but
that for sure.
I think a lot of folks think you can't do it. I think for a lot of folks that are out there that maybe they want to start a farm or ranch, when you get to looking at what kind of money it's going to take, I will tell you right now, you've got a better shot of buying an intact operation. And I told this to a young kid. I'm actually working on a deal right now. He's been trying to buy land around kind of that Gatesville region, and 300 acres. It doesn't cash flow to buy the land, to buy the cattle, and he even has a sizable herd right now. And I'm like, okay, go back to the drawing board. And I said, I want you to find a bigger deal. And he said, a bigger deal? What do you mean? And I said, something that cash flows. I don't care. Don't come back with a bigger deal, something that, will actually create some cash flow, some wealth. And I said, it may not be in Texas. I don't know where it's going to be. Well, he came back with a $15 million deal. Well, you're going to laugh, but the $15 million deal actually cash flows and looks good. It looks good because we've got enough assets to back it. We've got the real estate to back it, and we got the cash flow to debt service it. So is it $15 million? Absolutely. So we've got Capital Farm Credits looking at picking up half the debt, and then I've got a private entity that we're working with, Farmland Stock Exchange. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. Landon Larkin, Brian Kearney, they're friends of mine. We've been at several trade shows, and we're looking at kind of creating a product that we could maybe do something on the back end of that. And our deal is okay, land is going to be tough, and we've got to be creative. If you're going to start from scratch, it's not like it was 50, 60 years ago. And so this private credit or an investor type model, we're going to have to utilize those tools that are out there. And there's people out there to do it. I mean, if somebody's got a project going on, feel free to reach out.
Is it kind of like, it kind of sounds to me like almost go back to real estate, because I listen to guys like that all the time, but like listen to Grant Cardone and stuff, and like the difference in, you look at single family or just one house up to a fourplex is residential, and it's just the prices on the comps in the neighborhood. But if you get into an actual apartment building or an office space or something like that, it's real more based on revenue. Revenue, yes, it's a business instead of residential. And I've never tried it, but they're like, you could go, no matter what your credit and what your stuff is, they're going to be like, well, this thing makes $150,000 a year, over the debt and expenses and all that. Yes, let's loan you the money on that, because it's gonna work.
I want, if I could preface a lot, is it's just numbers. If the numbers work and they work better at doing a $10 million deal, I would much rather go and take a chance on you on a $10 million deal that cash flows than you trying to buy the neighboring ranch for $1 million or $2 million, and you're going to have to leverage everything that you and your wife put together. And that's, I think for us, it's hard because,
and if you make 10% over here, it's a lot bigger number than the 10% over here.
Absolutely. That I think that's a huge misnomer, because we always feel like you got to start small and you just kind of got to capture a little bit along the way. We're getting into a point where there's an aging ranching and agriculture sector. We've got to figure out some unique ways to get these folks into agriculture and into some operations. I mean, I had a meeting with McDonald's and Wendy's. They were at a conference I was at, some representatives. They're concerned about beef supply. I'm like, hey, we are wanting to create a fund that we can kind of help young farmers and ranchers get into these operations. And I want to try to get some of these industry partners that have become wealthy and created a lot of wealth on the backs of our industry. And so a lot of what we're seeing, a lot of the profits that are being derived in the last 2 years with where the market is, I want to be able to get those folks to jump back in and help us rebuild this industry. Because it's going to be lonely out there on County Road, whatever, when you're the only one driving up and down there, and there's not the 5 other ranchers that are there now, and we're a dying breed right now, and there's only so much consolidation that we can do. A guy's running 1,000 cows, and why does he want to go have the headache and have more employees and more equipment? And in all reality, if he's making a good living, he's got a good quality of life. It's just not as appealing to go borrow the money right now. A lot of folks are kind of happy where they're at.
What's one skill or trait you would say to develop or work on that would be important for success, just in life or in any industry?
I think communication, and within communication, I'm going to say one, body language, and being able to understand where you're at. So whoever you're dealing with, whether you're trying to sell something, work a deal, or you're just trying to figure out where someone's at, I think communication and being clear and concise with that communication is key. So and a lot of the folks in ag, like you said, not social folks, they don't, that if I don't see anybody for the next week, it's okay,
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you can get to that where that is a really a good skill, and you can kind of understand and read folks and really build those relationships, and not just superficial relationships. I mean, truly read folks and understand what's going on, and build those meaningful relationships. You will go wherever you need to go,
Mm-hmm.
and you will reach whatever you need to reach.
And I would say too, like on top of that, I used to think that was a inherited trait, which some people do have the gift of gab or whatever, and it comes easy for them. But it is a skill. You can develop it. I've been working on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's something you can change. And I really like Alex Hormozy. I follow a lot of his stuff, and he says pretty much anything can be broken down once you look at it. He's like, somebody says somebody's charismatic or whatever. Well, what makes that person charismatic? They walk into the room, they smile, they shake hands, they tell jokes or whatever. Well, you can go in there and you're going to have to think about it, but you can make yourself do those maneuvers. And same with talking to somebody and all that. I mean, it's something that you can develop, and not just you're either got it or you don't.
And I think too, having confidence, walk in the room and yeah, there's a guy there that he may be wealthier than anybody in the U.S., but realizing that you're on the same level. And most of these folks, when we go into these investor meetings and, when I'm dealing with everybody with net worths of 100 million or more, yeah, they look at life differently than we do. Are they still human? Absolutely. And I think you don't treat them any different, and I think it's that superstar status that you kind of, where sometimes folks treat other folks differently. You can't do that. I mean, people value certain things. And I think, if you keep that in mind when you're dealing with people, you'll always succeed. You'll get where you want to get to. You may have to go through 250 of them.
Yeah.
But keep at it.
Yeah. Just because you have some failure doesn't mean you're wrong.
Absolutely.
And of course, the wrap up question I always ask, what's your favorite restaurant?
Favorite restaurant? Ugh. That's a good one.
I know you're a world traveler.
Honestly, I could go for some fajitas at Joe T's. That'd probably, maybe a margarita. That'd be good.
Yeah. That's a good one. And tell everybody there's so much value here, and I really like what y'all are doing. How do people get involved? For one, I think for sure, if you're a producer or want to be, getting involved on the consulting and bookkeeping side, and then if somebody already does have some money looking somewhere to put it, getting a hold of you on that side.
Absolutely, yeah. You feel free to go to www.youragempire.com, and you can access anything on our website. Book a call, and especially for investors, I would like a face-to-face meeting if we can get that done, because we're not looking for the one-hit wonders just to deposit money and not see them. I mean, I want a lasting relationship with the folks that we're working with. I think that's better to work that way. And on the consulting side and Empire Financial Services, book a discovery call. Myself or one of my teammates will get you set up on that, and we'll have a 30-minute consult and kind of go through what we need to do and see if it's a good fit. If it's not a good fit, I'll let you know. That's one of the things. We've worked with a few folks that I didn't think that they were a good fit, and I don't want you to waste your money, and I don't want to waste our time.
Right.
So
yeah, not everybody. It's not not a good fit. It doesn't make sense, and it's good to get it out of the way up front.
Absolutely.
And then y'all got some free, you mentioned social media and stuff. Y'all got some free content out there to help people too?
Absolutely. Yeah. Feel free to check us out. We're on Instagram, YouTube. We've got our podcast, TikTok. You can track us down. And I like to keep up with whatever the hot topics are. A lot of times I'll put some market information out there. Obviously, my guys get priority and get more content, but I do like to put some stuff out there so everybody can see, kind of what we've got going on. But yeah, it's definitely reach out. We'll help you where we can.
Awesome. Well, thank y'all. Y'all reach out to Empire Ag. Lots of value here. Share it out too. Maybe if you didn't get a whole lot of value out of it, maybe somebody you know will. So share it out, and we'll see y'all next time. As a business owner, Google reviews can make or break you. The problem? Happy customers don't always speak up, and the few bad ones can drag you down fast. That's why we built Review Wizard, a free tool that makes getting 5-star reviews simple. Just post a QR code in your business. Customers can scan it, and in seconds, they leave you a review. But that's just the start. Review Wizard helps you respond to customers automatically, share reviews straight to social media, and even add them to your website to build instant trust. Every new review boosts your Google SEO ranking, making it easier for new customers to find you online. And if you want to take it to the next level, our AI upgrade can filter out the bad reviews before they hit your page and engage with your customers so you don't lose them. That means more good reviews, less damage control, and stronger relationships. The best part, the base version is completely free. No catch. Just click the link below and start turning your happy customers into your best marketing team today.